I've got it in three areas. But I'll start with the summary. I have a different relationship with Uncle Don that includes professional when I was at Lexmark. So I have a couple of things I want to say, and I want to start talking directly to you. Can you hear me? Uncle Don, can you hear me? Now, you're probably the most vibrant guy I know at 90, and for any of us that are feeling like we're getting up there, if you're 61 or if you're 70, you got 20 more years with Uncle Don's vitality, 29, and you're a great example. And a couple of things I think about is you're always different. In my life, I looked at you and I said, you flew boats. I never knew anybody that flew. I didn't know what a PBY was. And you were a business owner. You're the first business owner that I ever knew. And of all the people in my life, you couldn't shoot and you played defense. I didn't know what that was. I never knew what that was. But I've watched you and your family, and I'm just amazed at how fearless and courageous that you've had to move into the teeth of so much adversity, being an entrepreneur and a bartender and a limo driver. And you know, I think of people that started businesses when they're older. Ray Kroc started McDonald's late, the KFC guy. He started the business when he was 65. Lee Iacocca got fired from Ford. He started Chrysler, that's all we know him for, when he was 62. You started a business at 75. And that's incredible.
Hey!
And you know, whether the Lord takes you now or later, the business is on a trajectory right now that it's never seen. That's leadership and steely-eyed, stick to it to this. And say that to me.
Logarithmically.
But I want to tell you a couple of stories. Now, seriously.
Section 3.
When I was at Lexmark, and it was in 2000, so this is when he is 80, right? I'm going to tell you 3 stories quickly. One is I had a team meeting, and I had people in from Lexington, people in from the East Coast, and I had 3 days of events scheduled. And a lot of it was at the Constitution Center, and we had dinner down in South Philly where the waiters sing the opera dinner. And I asked Uncle Don to drive us. And he drove us. And the reason why I tell you this story is afterward, this is his business acumen and his people-centric skills. I had 6 salesmen at the time. And after we're done, we review the performance of each one of them. And he says to me, that girl from Florida, she's really nice. But do you think she's going to make it to? And I have a guy in my life who still asks me how Uncle Don is doing. And the second story is, we were selling to the school district of Philadelphia, and we wanted to bring them out to Plymouth meeting for a big demo. And in those days, you know, the objective was to have a home game, so you could bring the customer in and give them one of these. I'm going to tell you a story. And so we didn't want to do it at the school district, and I asked Uncle Don to pick them up and bring them out to Plymouth meeting so we could do our briefing. And we're prepared, and I said to Uncle Don, you can play one of 2 roles. You could be Tim's Uncle Don and a great guy and affable, or you could be my inside mole. And within a heartbeat, he said, I'll be the mole. So long story short, we do the briefing, he takes him back to Philly, and he comes back and he says, here's who you're competing with. And there's another guy they talked about that you need to get to.
That's great.
And the last of the three is, my boss was coming in from Lexington, and I wanted to take good care of her. So I asked Uncle Don to pick up Sharon Brindley. And again, I'm expecting a scouting report. A little, how am I doing? What's she think of me? And whatever. He brings her back, drops her off, and this is what I get. She walks into the office and says, Timbuk! Timbuk! We went the other way on that one. But I just want to say, Uncle Don, you've dared to be different. You've always taken action right into the teeth of adversity and financial insecurity. And you've shown me a lot with your poise, your class. We talked about how you're always sensational. And you've really taught me, and I bet everyone around here, the idea that hard work will not kill you. Because you have always worked harder than anybody that I've known. And I love you. You're a special guy. And it's good to have you here, lucid and with us. And it's just very, very special.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The mole.
The mole.
The mole. I'll be the mole.
I think we have a Yankees fan next up on the agenda. Yankees fan.
Very tough act to follow. Andy just said you got some things, and I said, yeah, I might have one or two. Probably a story all the guys have heard, but maybe some of the ladies haven't. It's one of my favorite Uncle Don stories, and Marcy was very much involved in this. Marcy the rat. The rat. I was, Dad wasn't around a lot. Mom, you know, I had Mom on, whatever Mom said I didn't do, you know. So I had done something or other, and Mom said, you're grounded. Yeah, right. So I went out, and I was dating Diane Eisenminger at the time. And now Diane Eisenminger was one of those women that you always go, God, if I could just date her, my life would be complete. What am I, ninth, maybe 10th grade, and she was beyond a 10th grade boy at the time. She was beautiful, and I was dating her. So I was going to her house, and then we went to the movies. We went to the movies in Wayne. I got another thought going on in my mind. I even bought a Temptations album for her. The greatest hits of the Temptations. You know, I'm smoothing in. This is a good night going. And now we're coming back to her house. And I'm thinking there might be a smooch in there. You know, this is a good night. It's quiet. You know, looks like it's maybe the front porch of her house. We could do a little smooching. And I come walking up the door, and I walk in the door, and Uncle Don is sitting in her living room. He's sitting in his, and I said, Uncle Don, good to see you. What are you doing here? And he just gives me the steely-eyed glance like this. It was about that point when I realized there would be no smooching going on. There was nothing going on that night, and he said, get in the car. I didn't even get to say goodbye or anything. Get in the car. Apparently, Mom had called Don, or actually probably called Meg. And
yes.
Bobby's not listening to me. I told him to stay home, and so Meg told Don, Sleuth Don gets on the case. He doesn't live in Wayne, he's in Drexel, doesn't know a thing about me. But he starts snooping, starts finding, and he finds Mars. He finds Mars, and where's Bobby? I don't know. Well, who's Bobby? Who's her friend? Who's his girlfriend? Who's it? You gave me up in a heartbeat.
He wrote the tapes.
You went to Mars, didn't you? You used to tell me you went to Mars, and she gave him. But anyway,
I told her anything, you know.
gave her directions to the house, and there he was sitting in the house, you know, waiting. And I came in and ruined the entire night. It took me home and spoke to me in the car about respect for your mother and all the other things. Which actually did have a little bit of effect, but what really had an effect was I wasn't getting any smooching done that night.
Yeah.
But, you know, that the tenacity to, you know, come into a situation and actually track it down and then be sitting in the living room when I came home is pretty good. But I also would like to, what a pleasure it is to be here with you. At 90 years old, you're my hero because the other three brothers didn't have such a good longevity thing going with them.
They had bad things.
Now that I just hit 60, Dad died at 62, and I thought he had a good life. I just hit 60. He died really young. You know.
Yeah.
So to see you here at 90 gives me hope that maybe I'll be here at 90 someday.
Yeah.
So I love you. You ruined one of the best nights of my life.
I know I did. I was right there.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yes.
I think it's the professorial. Ladies and gentlemen, the professorial. You gonna go there? Good, I'll come back over here.
Buttons the coat.
I'll pick up right with the professorial. Some of you may not know what that is all about, but probably at your age, Kennedy, Uncle Don saw something in me, and he started calling me the professor, which was later shortened to prof, and then affectionately turned into professorial. But I was like your age, Kennedy. I was a young boy, and that he took that kind of different interest in me created a special bond, which has only been heightened by the blue and gold that he's wearing, and that we share together. And you were closer than Uncle Ned because you were closer in my life, and we spent some great times in Annapolis going to football games and then going out to different restaurants for some crab or clam, maybe a Bloody Mary, but they were very special times, and we missed this year. But that Navy pride that we have together, and you know he wears it so well. I love that extra bond that we share together. And Bobby mentioned that Uncle Don could show up in some unique places. I think Kevin probably has 3 or 4. I've got a couple. I can't share them here. But you really should have been a detective.
Yes.
But my takeaway, now that I'm nearing 60, is that you cared about your brother's family. Whether it's Bob or Dick, if our parents weren't around, Uncle Don was there to care for us and look out for us. And that's a message that we should take away today, that we should look out for each other and for each other's families. Great lesson. And then my last story that I'll share with you is something that I've given some speeches about leadership because we've learned it in the Marine Corps. But there's a principle of Marine Corps leadership, and it's called enthusiasm. You can't be an effective leader unless you have enthusiasm. And 2 things I'll speak to about that with Uncle Don. Tim mentioned his work ethic, and I think that derives from a passion and an enthusiasm. But there was a day, and it was like I had to get up at 4 o'clock to catch an early flight, and I'm going 2:52. It's 5 in the morning, and I'm sort of thinking, man, this is a tough one. I gotta get out of the airport. And I stop at 252 and Route 3, and I look over, and Uncle Don's looking at me, smiling. And he's got, I think you guys were with Elegante then? He's wearing a tuxedo.
Yeah.
Dapper to the nines, and that sent me a message. You think you got it tough?
I'm already working.
But I've told so many people this story about my Uncle Don, and you all know that he has been a tough fighter all his life. And in comparison probably to his brothers, he didn't have as much to do in the wallet. But if you ever asked Uncle Don, how you doing, it's either I'm spectacular, I'm sensational, I'm outstanding, I'm magnificent. It's all superlatives, and I've told people that story about you, Don, and if you say it, your actions will follow. If somebody asks you, first check to see their reaction, because it's hilarious. On a Monday morning when you say, I'm spectacular, but you taught me that, and I try to do it every time somebody asks me how I'm doing, and it makes me think of you every time, but it changes your life. But anyway, thank you for all that you've done for me and for our family over the years. I love you too. Even though you are a Marine.
Yes.
Morsel cake.
Here comes the rat.
She's a pretty rat.
She's very pretty rat.
The prettiest rat in the
Start
room.
off with my kiss.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Whenever Uncle Don came to our house in Wayne, it always felt good to see him walk through. As Chris said, he always used the superlatives to say how you were doing. But he made us feel that way too. He would come in, he would be happy, and he always reached out to each one of us in a special way. You had the nicknames for all of us. I'm Cakes. I don't know where that came from, but you're the only one that calls me Cakes, Marcel Cakes, but shortened to Cakes, and I just always loved to hear you say that to me. I used to love to hear you say to Mom, Sweet Face. That was her nickname. He had the Norman. Everybody had their nickname. And, that endeared us to you. My story, I have two short ones. When I graduated Penn State that summer, I hadn't gotten a job, and you needed some help putting some of the chairs into cardboard boxes. Do you remember this? So you asked Dad if any of the kids were around, and he said, yeah, Mars is looking for a job. So I went there with my girlfriend, Leslie Hitton, who, if you guys remember Leslie from college, she was one of my roommates. She's more of a prima donna type. So he said, we're going to be putting together big cardboard boxes. You're going to be doing a lot of stuffing, so bring some kind of gloves, because your arms are going to get scratched up and whatnot. And it was summer. It was not air conditioned, and it was hot, and we were working hard. But Leslie arrives with long white hair.
I love it. Oh my God.
And she kept asking, when's the break? When's the break? Well, Uncle Don was getting a kick out of Leslie. But we worked really hard. I think we worked for like 3 days. But each day, we finished the day and we went to some bar in Upper Darby.
What a surprise. What a surprise.
I think that was Leslie's favorite part of the day. But I was so proud to show my college roommate my uncle, because he was just a wonderful person to be around at work. He was a hard worker, but he was, joking and fun, and certainly we had fun when we went to the bar in Upper Darby. I don't know where we It was one of your old hunts, I think, Don, because I think that's what he said. They used to go there.
Stanley Cup?
There, many.
What year was it?
Maybe the Stanley
So-
Cup.
Stanley Cup, is that?
That's in Springfield, but that's close.
Anyway, the other story was one night when he was making a drive home from the airport.
Kennedy.
Someone that you know, that had called for a limo ride. And they lived in Radnor. And he pulls in the driveway and the dog comes out and Uncle Don, Zinger! It says, how do you know my dog? He said, that used to be my brother's dog.
Zinger! Zinger!
He knows even the animals. I'm so glad, Uncle Don, that when you were a young man, you made the wise decision to quit smoking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our fathers did not.
Yep.
I remember you telling a story that when you quit, you used to keep a cigarette in your pocket. You said that you knew that it was there, but I wasn't going to smoke it. And just knowing that it was there was enough for you. And I thought, I don't think my dad could have done that. But you did. And thank God you did. Because we got to have all these stories and all these memories and all these times to spend with you. And thank you for that.
Thanks, Martha.
Cakes.
I don't know where he got that.
Was that a
I'm
brand?
glad you did.
It was Marshall Cake.
Yes.
Marshall
yes.
Cakes. Uncle Don, my godfather. From a very early age, I spent a lot of time over at Uncle Don's with Don, and then Andy, Maureen, and Aunt Meg. In the summer times, I would stay at Uncle Don and Aunt Meg's because either I was playing Narberth or I was playing something, you know, up here, and everybody else was down the shore. And he treated me just like a son all the time. Told me a lot of times some things that I was doing good, but he also told me the things I was doing stupid.
Often.
But and then in the summertime when we were old enough, Don and I and Chris for a couple of years got a job at US Vinyl, or wrought iron chair, where Don worked for many, many years. And although we didn't work with Don every day, he was up in the office or he was on the road selling or, you know, fixing something that was broken. I can say that people that were either janitors or the president of the company and everybody in between loved Uncle Don and had tremendous respect for him as a man. And a lot of that was because of some of the things that were said here. His work ethic, his ability to deal with people, his attitude, and especially his sense of humor, which we all know is one of the best. So they were real. I look back and they were really a lot of fun times. And all of the reunions where Uncle Don would be, whether it was Uncle Bob or Dad or Uncle Ned, Uncle Don was always had his own piece of the rock as far as the family was concerned. He did all the cooking. He would be right there with a good jab at somebody. But whenever Uncle Don spoke, people would listen, like E.F. Hutton. And he's just been a great inspiration for me. He's one of the toughest guys that I've ever known. You know, hard-working, strong will, enthusiasm, like Chris said, but your sense of humor and your outlook has always been important to me. And I thank you for all of the guidance and all of the kicks in the rear end that you've given me over the years, but great advice as well. I love you very much.
Awesome. Awesome, Kev. Thanks so much. Thanks for hosting. Thank you, here at the Overbrook Golf Club. Dad, we love you so much.
It's a very special day.
It really is. And gotta hit that button off.